Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's album review. But before we review the album, we have to decide which album it is we're going to be listening to. We're going to be given a choice of 3 random albums, and Brett is going to choose which one we're going to listen to. So I will share the screen, and here we have generator. So I'm doing it, but Brett's deciding it's his turn, but I'm actually pressing the button. So I'll press generate. And we have got industrial music. Okay, so here's your choices, Brett. You've got, can you see them?
Yeah.
So you've got Front 242. Welcome to, I think the album's called Moments 1, Alphaville, Forever Young, and Covenant, Sky Shaper. So they're your choices. Obviously different times as well. Welcome, the first one, Front 242, was 2008, Alphaville was 1984, Covenant 2006. What do you fancy?
Right, so I will say, it doesn't happen often on this website here. So Alphaville, I do know, and I know the song Big in Japan. They also do another song, which more than likely probably appears in this album as well, called Forever Young, which I'm sure is a song, if you heard it, you would definitely recognise it.
Forever Young is the name of the album.
Oh, is it as well?
It says, can you see? Forever Young.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Sorry, I thought that was Big in Japan. That's the song on there.
Big in Japan is the random song that's been given.
Yeah, that's the one there.
Forever, yeah.
So yeah, the song Forever Young will be on there as well, which is a great song as well. I think there's recently been a cover of it that's been recently played. So I do know one. The other 2 I don't know. So the Alphaville, it's almost like indie rock pop as such, very 80s. So the question is, do I go safe with something that I kind of know, or really go off the chart and go something a bit different? I think I might play it a bit safer, because there still might be some unusual stuff on there. I'm going to go for Alphaville for our 10th album here, for the album Forever Young.
Okay. Okay, interested that you did know that one. I've never heard of any of those. Forever Young is a song that I know, still quite been out for a few years. Can't remember who sings it, but it's a really good song. So I'm assuming that's the cover, the cover version of it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've ever heard the original, but certainly be looking forward to listening to it. So yeah, you're obviously sort of partially familiar with the group and the album, maybe some of the songs on the album. So is it your sort of music?
For people who probably say they know me, they would say this is very, very me. It is classic 80s synth. I said sort of like indie, right? It is more sort of indie, synthesized kind of 80s tunes. But I think the only reason synthesized is just because of that era. So it is effectively a bit of me. So probably should and might enjoy it. But again, I don't know what the rest of the stuff on the album will be like.
Okay, I'm just bringing up their album now. So you know where they're from, don't you?
Is it someone Scandinavian? Is it?
No. They're German.
Oh, Germany.
Oh yeah. We're staying with the German thing.
Oh, there we go. That's probably for deep down. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's not German rap this time, but we've still got Germans singing. So it's their debut album. I'll just share the screen. Their debut album, 1984. The album was re-released in a super deluxe edition in March 2019. So we might have off air, off camera, we might have to decide which version of the album we're going to listen to, whether it's the original or the 2019 version, the re-release. So in terms of the songs, only 10 songs on there. Big in Japan is on there, obviously. Forever Young. Anything else that you recognise?
I think I might recognise Sounds Like a Melody, but I wouldn't put mine in it. But definitely Big in Japan, I know, and Forever Young.
Okay, the 2009 remaster, super deluxe edition, obviously includes the first 10 same 10 songs, the original 10-track album plus a second disc, and a third disc, like a demo and a DVD. So it's your call, your choice. We could just go for the standard version.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to go standard Alphaville.
Okay. So yeah, quite looking forward to it. I guess it's classed as synth pop, new wave. Doesn't really sound like my type of thing, but just quite intrigued by the song. What was it? Forever Young. So who was it who did that cover version? Let me just check.
I think at the top of my head, like something like Birdie may have done a cover, but there's also been a different one as well.
Oh no, I'm not talking that old. I'm talking like maybe the Forever Young that I'm thinking of is just a different Forever Young. Becky Hill version, other versions. Jay-Z. That's the one, Jay-Z. No, yeah.
Oh yes,
Jay-Z.
yeah. He used it a little bit, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that? Young. Yeah. Mr. Hudson. Yeah. So that's the one, but it's just a sample of it. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Okay. So yeah, interesting. So we'll be back with you in a few seconds, having listened to the album, and we will go ahead and review it for you. So we have now listened to the album, and we're going to go ahead and review it for you. So Brett, I believe it's your turn to go first. So what did you think of Alphaville, Forever Young?
Yeah, it's quite apt. Obviously, I did select it as well for my random choice. As I said in the intro, this sort of genre of style of music is something I do have a soft spot for. So my view may be a little bit more biased than the average person, or maybe for yourself, Lee. So I have tried to be, sort of more in the middle grounds and critical where need to be. It's a really strange. I normally start my statement by saying a strange album to review or take from it. Even though I felt there was a little bit of variety with this album, generally on the whole, there probably wasn't, bar maybe the one sort of standout song, which I'm sure we'll both agree on and talk about as we get to it there. It was weird at this, and I didn't write much about the songs themselves because they could have been quite similar in some regards. It seems to be every time they start, go, okay, yeah, typical 80s synth electro pop starts. How's it going to go? But then by the end of it, I actually didn't mind it, and it was almost more a case of when there was less of the singing, more just the tune itself. That's what I was enjoying more from the album. So did I feel like when I completed the album, I wanted to listen to it again? No. Where there are a couple of songs from there that I liked? Yes. Do I think it was an okay album? Yeah. And I just think for this genre, it's probably not the best advertisements for it. So yeah, I said it did get repetitive, but I did enjoy quite a bit from it. I actually found it more interesting looking up more about Alphaville and stuff they've done, and thinking, okay, why did they not actually make it as big as they did? And even though they've had quite a lot of albums since then, I can maybe see why in some regards. So yeah, that's kind of all I want to say. So obviously, as we go through the songs, I said not like I've got a lot to say about them. There'll be other bits I can add in from there, really. So didn't overly impress me, but also not the worst thing I've ever listened to as well. And like I said, I do have a soft spot for this genre. But I said it'd be more interesting to hear what your opinions of it are, Lee.
Okay, so just before I tell you, how much of Alphaville were you? How familiar were you with Alphaville before listening to the album?
Yeah, like I said, there's only two songs. I thought I recognised a third one, but it turns out actually I must have mistaken for a different song because it wasn't what the song I thought it was. So there's only those two songs, and that is all I've ever known about them. I actually didn't know how successful they had been, or if they had a lot more stuff that came out I just didn't know about. And that's why I was intrigued to listen to it, because I thought maybe there might be more. But that is all I knew, those two songs. And there's a reason why, because there doesn't seem to be much else that they, in terms of, making big hits, really.
Okay. So, yeah, the notes I've got down here, I've put down very typical 80s pop music. And I think that came across like literally from the first few seconds of listening to it. What you mentioned it there? What was it? The electronic, the synth? What was the word?
Yes. So it's more what they call synth pop rather than electric pop. Electric pop's kind of more dancey. This is more like using it's short for using synthesizers. So that very 80s electric keyboard kind of thing. So obviously I've got a soft spot for the Pet Shop Boys, which, to do a bit of research, do class myself more as electric pop, which I can understand and get. Whilst this is, the synthetic synthesizer keyboard sounding stuff.
Okay, so I'll just jot that down actually. Synth. Okay, so so I thought overall the album lacked variety for the most part. It's very similar, same sort of style. Obviously, the songs were different. I could obviously realise that, but I just thought they were pretty similar, which isn't, I put down here as well, which isn't a problem if you like the music. Why would you want something very different if you're enjoying the music that they're offering? But if you're not really into it and it's the same again and again, it just gets a little bit, a bit boring, and it's not really. Basically, I'm not really a fan of 80s music in general. Basically, I'm not a fan of like synth pop. It's obviously very recognizable. You hear it, you understand, recognize it straight away. This 80s music. There are some exceptions to like 80s music that I like, but generally, this wasn't the decade for me, even though I was born in this decade. But I'm just not a big fan of 80s music. I prefer like 70s and 60s music and 90s music, obviously. But 80s, I think probably because of the synth, the electric keyboards you're talking about, doesn't really work for me. But saying that, it is pop music. So it's not like it's extreme in one way or another. So anything that's pop music is always going to be listenable for me. If this was some kind of hard rock or something, then it would have been a complete disaster, complete turn off. Whereas something like this, I didn't particularly like it, but it's certainly listenable. It's not. I'm not like closing my ears. Oh, I hate this or anything. It was listenable. That's the best I could probably say. That's pretty much all I can say really on that. Obviously, we'll go through the songs in a moment. In fact, we'll go through the songs right now. So, first one, A Victory of Love. So obviously, as I usually say, first songs sort of give the first impression of what the music's going to be like, and straight away, very, very 80s start. The song started to sort of liven up halfway through. I just put not very good. Didn't really like the song, to be honest.
The first thing I put here, very 80s sound. Like I said, we could say it's obviously for all the songs from there. It was sort of when it sort of went really slow in the midway points where it sort of really picked up quite a bit. I really liked it from there. I wasn't sort of expecting, for God, it's going to be like this all the way through, and it sort of changed up and went all the way through for the last minute and a half, really. As a result for that bit, I actually quite like this one. Put a little sort of smiley question mark face next to this one, just because it sort of took me by surprise. But yeah, once you've heard this first track, it's pretty much the same all the way throughout the album, pretty much. Obviously, as you said before, you obviously can tell there is difference there. But I said from a grand point of view, yeah, what you listen to is what you're going to get with this.
Okay, next was Summer in Berlin. Obviously, bearing in mind they are a German group. I put down a question for you, Brett, because I didn't really research the group. Is it a different singer? Because the singing sounded like different kind of voice in this song compared to the first one. So have they got different people on vocals?
There will be different people singing. The lead singer, I've forgotten his name now. I know his surname's Gold, I've forgotten his first name. Is the main singer. And I think he's been the main singer throughout the start till like present day. I think they only released an album not that long ago. But I think other band members sometimes do vocalize or maybe do sing a little bit. I didn't pick up on it being a different singer on this song.
It may not have been.
My side of things.
It may not have been. The voice sounded a bit different.
Yeah, so it could have been different, but generally they've only had the main lead singer. He is Mr. Alphaville, pretty much.
Okay, so again, so 80s this was. It really was. I slightly preferred this one to the previous one, but I still wasn't particularly keen on it. I felt this song felt a bit lighter, a bit kind of maybe sung a bit softer, a bit easier to kind of listen to.
Yeah, again, very, very 80s. I did research. So this one's apparently meant to be about the uprising in East Berlin. So obviously during this time, of course, it was the Berlin Wall and the Cold War stuff, which is up in another song as well. And it was quite interesting because I didn't look too much. I was trying to listen to lyrics, and that's why I kind of put a couple of ones where, even though this was in English, I still quite struggled to sort of pick up the lyrics or get an understanding from it, which was really strange. And I think sometimes really concentrate and adjust. And I know a lot of this sort of genre music, it's not about the words and lyrics. It's more about the tune itself. Yeah, really struggled. I couldn't really pick out how this was anything to do with East Berlin in any way. But also said it was a nice point to have a bit of sort of history within there. And it's kind of like the same equivalent, songs coming out now talking about COVID. Kind of is almost like a little bit of a history lesson in that self. But yeah, I found this song could have been maybe a little bit boring, it's a bit slower. But by the end, I didn't mind it as much. But yeah, it's just a standard Alphaville song for the album.
Okay, then we had Big in Japan. I thought the background music sounded a bit like sort of music to a Sega Master System game. Like you can imagine playing a Sega, like back in the day, playing the Master System, also possibly Mega Drive, and you sort of have this particular kind of music in the back, this instrumental going on in the game. That kind of feeling to it, I thought. I thought the chorus was a bit stronger with this song, so kind of a bit more memorable, a bit better than the previous songs. It was listenable, and then at the end, sort of right at the end, they sort of banged the gong, which was I put very Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is their big hit. So actually, generally, most people will get onto it. There's another song which most people might recognise as the main song, but this is actually what I found out. I was surprised. Their only real hits in the UK. Generally, they had, and this was actually a big hit for them before they'd actually even done or completed the album, which is quite unusual, really. So. There's other songs which sort of relate to that as well. So this song's generally meant to be about, if you can, in this style genre of music, which they were very influenced by, they loved all the UK, more known as indie electro pop bands, influence from there. So if you can make a hit, that's a big hit in Japan, that's it, you made it. And effectively that is what happened. This was their hit that sort of propelled them into the spotlight, and they effectively weren't ready. I said they almost could be considered almost like a one-hit wonder in some regards. Even though they had to do a couple other songs, did okay, but they peaked far too early, and this is a sign of that, with their song trying to be making it big in Japan, which it did, and the rest is history. It sort of went sort of downhill pretty much after that.
You know what? I kind of get that in a way, like, because maybe most of you watching don't know. If anyone is watching, I've got my own YouTube channel, and I put a video out once, and it got really, really big, really, really popular, and got loads of subscribers from it. And then everything I've done since hasn't really worked. So kind of maybe the same sort of thing going on there. Have a big hit. Everyone buys it, everyone likes it, and you think, oh, we've made it, and you think everyone's going to keep on buying listening to your music, but then don't. So yeah, I've been there, done it.
Otherwise, yeah, it's a song I recognised, do quite like it, still like it now. But yeah, like I said, I found it more interesting reading up about it, really.
Next up, we have To Germany with Love. So we had some faster singing in this one. Felt again sort of like typical video game instrumentals going on. I think the word Germany was mentioned about 100 times in the lyrics. And that's about it. It was all right.
Yeah, for the same thing. There was also like an eerie start sound. So again, I didn't mention this was meant to be linked with the Berlin Wall and the Cold War sort of stuff, but had that kind of feel to it. German mentioned a lot, and again, it's just the same sounds all the time. Again, it was a bit sort of, okay, yeah, I've heard this, same old. But then by the end of it, again, maybe because I said I got a soft spot for the genre. Once the singer was sort of stopping, it was I actually didn't mind. I seem to be more sick of the song at the start, this is really unusual. I don't think it would happen in any other albums. I'm sick of the song at the start generally, but actually at the end, I prefer and I don't mind it as much, which I really can't explain too much there, but it seems weird.
Okay. Next up, we had Fallen Angel. So again, I was sort of asking the question, do we have different singers going on here? I mean, you've already answered the question. You said the whole album was the same singer as far as you were aware. It just kind of felt a bit different. Maybe he's just the same guy with kind of singing in a different way. I don't know. I thought part of the song was sort of quite head boppy. I was sort of bopping my head along, which was quite good. Some interesting elements of the song did change slightly in parts. Could have been worse, this one, not one of the better ones, perhaps.
So again, it was more interesting about the song. So this is, so like I said, they had their hit big in Japan, and then they sort of did an album, and this song was actually related to that, how they wanted to try and get a number one or big hit, and actually how they've fallen sort of from there. It's a really strange to think you've got that, and on the album you got a song about making it big, and sort of how it's not quite gone accordingly fully to plan. But I said the lyrics didn't quite match with that, but that's apparently what the secret message with this song is. Again, like I said before, so a bit the same at the start, but again by the end, again, especially when they weren't singing, I sort of didn't mind it as much.
Okay. Then we had Forever Young, which is the name of the album. So I was looking forward to this one the most. So I knew this from Jay-Z, Mr. Hudson. I think the song there is called Young Forever in their version. I found it's a good song, but I just prefer the Mr. Hudson Jay-Z version. It's the best song on the album for me by miles so far. But I just think that Jay-Z and Mr. Hudson took this song to a whole new level. I actually found out that Jay-Z and Mr. Hudson used another version of this song, which someone else had done after this. Because there's been a number of people that have what's the word? Done not copies of the song, but done what's the word?
A snippet. What's the word?
No, when you sing someone else's song, what's it called?
Yeah, I can't think of the words.
This is we use the word all the time. It's what do you call it when you sing someone else's song? When you
you mean just a cover?
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah,
that's
the word I was looking. So yeah, someone had done a cover version of this. I can't remember who it was, like some kind of R&B guy, and I think Jay-Z took it from his version, if you see what I mean. So
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of nice to listen to the original, but as soon as I heard this, when it finished, I just went onto YouTube and I just played the Jay-Z and Mr. Hudson version. I was like, oh, this is more like it.
Again, as you said, standout song on the album. And amazing to think, actually, because I said I always thought this was a big hit, but it was never a big hit. And they re-released it not once, not twice, but 3 times in the UK and the USA. And it never did well for some reason. But yet, when you had cover versions and different people taking from it, even like I said recently, it was used in a McDonald's advert. A girl, Becky Hill, I think her name was, doing a cover of it. Fantastic version of it. And again, it's a real sort of deep meaning songs. Again, this is actually about sort of the Cold War. And it even has a sort of the line, hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. Are you going to drop the bomb or not? So like I said, real sort of a deep meaning song, which seems to be more popular now, but just for themselves, just never did well for them. And apparently it was also meant to be originally more like the other songs, a bit more, I wouldn't say dancey, a bit more upbeat. As I said, this song is definitely a lot slower, which is definitely how it should be done. But again, just so more interesting how it never did it, and just shows like what it can do and other people can do with the songs. But I think we'll all forever, no pun intended with the title, be a good song, always be thought about. I think it's once, in later life when people realise actually how good it was, and shame everyone else has had a big success from it except for themselves. Obviously, they're still earning from that, because obviously they would have had to pay the rights. So they are still earning from it. So in a way, they have had success with it, but just not the way they probably would have liked to have done.
Yeah, well, one thing that we're I'm thinking now, based on the story I was telling you earlier about my YouTube situation. So, like, for example, with them, they've released this song, it's got really popular, big in Japan, and then every song they've released since, for whatever reason, hasn't been a hit. And they must be scratching their heads thinking, why? What do we have to do to get why was it they loved that song, but not all our other stuff? It's kind of the same with me, my YouTube. I'm like, why did everyone love that particular video? But everything I've done since or before that, they're not really enjoying it in the same way. It's kind of like, what do you have to do? Like, what? It's always weird. It's like, I don't even know if there's a reason for it. It's weird.
And it says more reason for this one, because like I said, we like the song, their biggest hit on here is not our personal favourite by the sounds of things. It's a different one. And I said that other song, people have, taken pretty much the same song and still had it from it, but for themselves, doesn't it? I think it's one of those things it just cannot be explained.
Okay, next up we have In the Mood. Not much to say. It was no better or worse than most of the others. It's just very similar.
Again, very much the same throughout. So again, this is also talking about their success in the height of 1984, and sort of doing stuff for the album. What else about here? Again, really hard to think today. It's just an 80s tune. And again, this one again, right at the end, it seems to be the best bit. Again, the singing sort of stops, the sort of music kind of changes, there's a lot more going on, keeps you on your toes a little bit. So like the others, it's the ending, the end parts of the song, which I enjoy most.
Yeah, it sounds like a melody. So this one's got sped up towards the end. We had a really long instrumental without singing. It reminded me, of sort of felt like a movie. You're watching a movie, you're watching people trying to escape from somewhere. Like people are like people on the run, like almost like people running away from something, like bank robbers escaping or something like that. It had that kind of instrumental feel to it.
I can totally get that on there. So I really like the sort of instrumental bit, and again, really put quite a bit to the song. Now, again, interesting. So this was also a big hit in South Africa. Again, not in the UK, but in South Africa, it was a big hit. It was written and arranged apparently in 2 days. Because again, they were trying to put this album together. They needed another sort of a song they could release to help promote and stuff, and this was it. And Alphaville, they always said they never ever liked this one, for apparently for years, would never ever play it on concerts and stuff. But I thought it was actually all right. Again, it was probably what you couldn't hear, you know, when it would stop singing the other bits, which were sort of more interesting. But again, it's just a nice bit of history, especially about themselves on, you know, having to put a song together to, you know, probably related a bit like yourself, Kappers, thinking about putting a video out and think it may not be your best thing, but you want to try and get us to think, okay, we need to do something to get
you sort of get a bit desperate.
in. Yeah, that's exactly how they felt a little bit with this song. It was almost like a desperate attempt to try and get some results in. But again, it did okay, but nothing like Big in Japan.
So next up we had Lies. This one had a promising start. I was like, okay, this might be all right. So this song felt a bit different to the others. It's obviously still had that very 80s feel to it. Wasn't particularly keen on it in the end, but I was just happy that it felt a bit different to most of the others. So yeah, I mean, this was, I'd say, if I was picking out certain, you know, there's 10 songs in here, I think this would be sort of one of those I would pick out as saying, okay, this one was one of the more interesting ones.
Yeah, I kind of almost, this could have been like their version of the experimental type song. It did feel a little bit different, less synth poppy and stuff. It was all right. I haven't really got much more to say on it than that, really. And I said, at least it was a bit different. So, like I said, when we talk about when I said started, it wasn't really variety. I said there's obviously with Forever Young in this slightly, but it was all right in my eyes.
The final song was the Jet Set. Similar style to most of the others on the album. Not really digging it.
Yeah. So again, this was the idea of this one was meant to be like a sort of a jingle, advertising jingle, but not on like cars or medicine or food or anything like that, but on things that you can't buy, like freedom, love, anarchy. And so when you had that in mind, I re-listened to it again, I sort of got that thing to that. You could hear sort of the bit of sort of having a bit of fun with this particular song. And talking about sort of society and whatnot. So again, a little bit different, but very similar to, you know, like I said, it kind of reminds you from the start of the very first track, that sort of very 80s feel. And again, it's sort of I really like the harmonizing of the voices at the end, which again has been the sum up of most of the songs I put here. Is the endings. In most of them I've generally liked the best.
Okay, so to summarize, I mean, I think you kind of talked more about the meaning of the album, some of the songs that kind of put it into a bit of a new perspective. You know, I was literally just listening to it based on just judging it by the actual song, not really picking up on the lyrics so much or reading about what the songs were about. So maybe I've done a bit of a disservice, but then again, that's kind of generally how I review the music here. I just kind of take each song as they are, don't really know much about them. Do I like the sound of them or not? It's pretty much how I review it. Some people might not, might disagree with that. I think that's not a good way to review music. Maybe I should do more research into the songs, but the fact is, based on what I heard, those 10 songs, just didn't really like it. Didn't hate it. It was listenable. Yeah, Forever Young was interesting to listen to. The original, as I said, but it just didn't really make much of an impression on me, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, so like I said, it seems like a standard sort of 80s, and I said we've got to remember as well as this was a very popular genre. I said just so 80s of it. So there's a lot of different bands out there probably doing it, and said there's probably bigger, better, well-known bands, and Alphaville almost sort of sits towards the middle bottom of that, really. And like you, generally when we're doing these, I should admit, obviously it is more a case of just not listening to songs. No, it so happens because I already knew Big in Japan and Forever Young quite well. Whilst I was listening to it, I wasn't listening to it because I know it that well. I had a little look, and that's sort of what, especially with Big in Japan, spurred on to find out a bit more, and then it sort of almost had a domino effect about different songs on the album while they're on there and stuff. Because like I said, I was so surprised that Big in Japan was their biggest hit, and that it was such a big hit even before they even had done it or finished the album. and it just opened a lot of doors there. But as the album for itself, could easily go past without sort of having to listen to it again. But saying a couple of good songs there, and like I said, I do have a soft spot for this genre, so I'm a bit more got a bit more tolerance to it in some regards. But I can definitely see why people just take it for what it is.
Okay, so that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. If you're new to this channel, we accept requests for us to, to review different albums. So if you've got a favorite album by your favorite artist, like your favorite singer, favorite band, whatever, let us know. We can review it for you, and we'll give you our thoughts on it. So don't forget to subscribe and like, and we'll see you again soon for the next one. Take care. Goodbye.